Welcome back to Healing Out Loud. Tonight we're going to talk about one of the fastest ways to start an argument on the internet. We're going to talk about gender roles, masculine and feminine energy. If you guys are new here, I am Elizabeth, and I am a very human licensed mental health counselor who has made lots of mistakes and failed forward many times. And also, I do have my own counselor. I always say, if your counselor doesn't have a counselor, then you need a new counselor. All right. I've invited John, who is one of my favorite people to have these conversations with because he brings a very healthy male perspective to relationships. So I have a ton of questions. He says he also has questions for me. So we're just going to have a real life conversation and see how things go. So my first question, John, is what do you think masculine energy means to you? Masculine and feminine separately.
Gosh, I think this is just made up speech. I don't think such a thing even exists. I think there are feminine men. I think there are masculine men. I think there are feminine women. I think there are masculine men. And when you attach the word energy next to it, it just talks about your most driven uh, attribute, right? Um, I feel like whatever you're strong at, that's just who you are. You know what I mean? Whether you're aggressive, whether you're a natural born leader, and that could be in any gender, for example, it could be male or female. And so I think these are just comfort words, right? For us to give identification to certain things. That's my opinion anyway.
In your experience, do you feel like having separate roles is important, and would you label them gender roles?
No, I don't label them gender roles. Again, I feel like gender roles again was probably a controlling way of putting things. Um, you don't say that you're a woman, you need to do dishes, and I don't say I'm a man, I have to go make money. I
Mm-hmm.
think we need to do dishes, and I think we need to go make money. I don't think that there's any one particular thing that falls on somebody. So what I say is I'm better at making money. I produce more money. I'm more efficient at getting money. I'm going to be the one who makes the money, right? And you're more efficient at whatever it is you're more efficient at. Like maybe you hate laundry but you love dishes, maybe you love dishes but you hate laundry. you know there's no specific role for any
Mm-hmm.
one person. It's about teamwork. You're building something. um you know when they say a woman is supposed to take care of the house, it's our house, it's our responsibility, it should be our job to take care of the house, right? So whatever that looks like for your relationship, wherever you guys meet each other, is really the that's the masculine energy is being feminine, and the feminine energy is being masculine, right? Like,
So you would say, I'm guessing you would say that it all centers around communication, basically understanding each other and communicating.
well, yeah, absolutely. So what I find to be true is that um, a good leader doesn't have a good follower if the leader is not being just and fair. If I'm not being just and fair to you,
Mhm.
you're gonna start resenting. You're gonna start hating the way you feel, the way I make you feel, and that's going to come off as a problem,
Mhm.
right? So it's a give and a take. You can't be in control of everything, but the things that you're good at, you should be in control of.
Okay. We talked about this. We
If you
talked
don't,
about
if
this
you don't,
last week about money. Like if one person is better with money,
right?
let that person be responsible, not in control, but responsible for the money and have collaborative conversations with each other when the bills are getting paid, but to be able to have the conversations with each other and delegate that to the person who is more financially responsible, not because of their gender, but because of their skill.
Exactly. So, for example, I love tools. I love building things. I love working with my hands. And if the sink broke and you don't know how to fix the sink, but I do, you should allow me to fix the sink. You shouldn't come over my shoulder and tell me I should do this and I should try that and I should be this and I should be that. You don't know what you're doing, and vice versa. If you're killing it with the money, you got the credit score and you got the finances lined up for our 401k, for our retirement. I shouldn't be coming in there telling you, well, we should go on a trip and we
Mm.
should be doing this and we should be doing that, because I'm not that guy, right? I'm not the one who's leading us in that financial freedom, right?
Right.
So it's all about, and from my opinion, especially when it comes to relationships, I think it's about complementing one another.
Okay.
I want to be able to compliment you. You're strong here, so let me be strong over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, when people look at us as a whole, they got it together
Right.
because they're working cohesively. They're working together. But if we're just focused on the money, they might say, well, they got a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of anything else. Their family life is not going so great. Their home looks terrible. You know what I mean? So their cars are always broke down, but they got money,
About
So it's
responsibility.
about complimenting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And beat each other's compliment. Exactly.
Yeah, we've talked about this one. I think it's a real controversial part of masculine and feminine. I know that there's this stereotype that men should make more money than women, and I do think that it has a lot to do with security, but in my experience, what I've started to learn is that it's not so much about who makes more money, because I don't care how much the person I'm with makes it has to be enough to pay the bills as much as I care about how they manage that money. Are they financially responsible?
Right.
That's where things get complicated. Like if somebody makes half as much as I make, a man makes half as much as I make, I can be okay with that if I see a plan. Like everything is structured in a way where he's managing it correctly. And then comes to the ambition part, which is a totally separate subject. Like if I see somebody that doesn't make a ton of
Right.
money, that it's manageable, cool. But if I feel like you have more potential than this, are you moving towards something better?
Well, then it also reverts back to the idea of how did you grow up with money? So I grew up without money, for example, and I've seen what money can do to people.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen firsthand when money comes into play, power quickly follows suit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen how it can destroy families, how it can destroy relationships and friendships, and this is why some people don't focus on money
Mm-hmm.
because of what it can do to people. But when people are money, the the biblical scripture is the love of money is
Right.
the root of all evil, right? So when we look at something, and I think this is true in just about everything, when you put something before your spouse, period, you're losing sight of your spouse. And I don't care if it's women, I don't care if it's drugs, I don't care if it's alcohol, I don't care if it's money, I don't care if it's work. A lot of people miss this one. Work is a big one.
Mm.
And so when we come down to what's really important in life, what we really want in life is do we want to have this partner who's going to be there for me through sickness and health? Or do we want somebody that's going to financially be able to take care of me because that's all that I need this person for? You know what I mean?
But yes, aren't we entitled to all of the things?
We want it all, right? Right. Again, there's nothing wrong with wanting somebody to be financially sound, financially secure, and financially literate, right? That those are all great attributes and qualities. Some people just don't have it, though. Some people just don't have the ability to really focus on that, and this is why somebody who is would absolutely complement a person like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I run into with a lot of the people that I work with is because we've come to a place where our generation, right? We're in our 40s, right? And I think what's happened with our generation is the majority of us were raised by single mothers. So there was a lot of struggle and there was a lot of independence. And I think that I do believe in masculine and feminine energy, but it's only a perspective. It's not like the defined version of masculine and feminine energy.
Right.
It's really about like I want a man who takes the lead, and I feel like that's a masculine trait. And I want to be able to fall apart, and I feel like that's a feminine trait, right? So if I look at it from that perspective, what I'm seeing is a lot of really independent women who felt a need to be the provider because that's what they watched their mother do, and they watched their mother work 6 jobs to pay the bills. So they've invested their younger years, which is why a lot of us are not having kids until later in life. We've invested our younger years into an education in order to be able to provide for our families. Now, what that's translated into is a lot of relationships where the dynamic isn't what it used to be. The man isn't the breadwinner. There, a lot of times women make what you have to have two incomes because of women's lib, which is a whole separate, very controversial subject. But I think women's lib fucked us. That's just my personal perspective. It was a great theory.
Oh,
It
we
was
can
great.
sweat.
Yeah, in theory, I think women's lib was amazing, but how it evolved, it destroyed our culture. But the point being, we've graduated into a very independent generation. Like, the women have established a foundation that leaves them making a substantial amount of money. And I think by nature, because men are so driven to do the physical things, right? A lot of men are not going to school to learn an education. They're going into the world, and they're learning a trade, which is exactly what I want from a man, right? I want the man to be able to,
Right.
like I need you to fix the toilet. I don't want to pay somebody to do it. I want to be like, babe, can you fix the toilet for me? So the moral of the story is, now a lot of the people that I work with in our generation, which is most of my clients, the woman makes more than the man, and for a lot of people, it's silently an issue. So the woman,
So,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, I heard something phenomenal that touches on this. One girl said, I watched my father provide for everything in our home, and he was an absolutely amazing asset to our family. But I also saw how my mother wished she had something, how she wished she did something, how she wished she followed her dream.
Mhm.
So essentially, the mother gave up her dreams and her wants and desires and relied on a man for everything. And so she grew up with, I don't need a man. I don't ever want to be in a position where I am relying on a man for anything.
Mhm.
So she became the breadwinner. So now she's a hard worker. She works the long hours. She chases the bread, right? And that same concept, a young man said, I watched my father provide everything. I watched my father be an amazing leader in our family, and he never let my mother go without. I want to be just like him. So
Mhm.
you have two strong men who lead and provide, and then one child say, I want to be like him, and the other child say, I want to be just like him so that I don't have to rely on a man for it. And so what that really tells me is that the way we perceive what is power, what is providing, what is needed, I think everybody's perception is different.
Mhm.
And so again, I really feel like none of this really exists until it's in your relationship,
Mhm.
and it's defined within your relation. We can have all of the social ideas and social norms and the social constructs, and none of it matters until you're in a relationship, until you're having to have these conversations with your partner.
Putting it
And
in
I think
practice.
it was right. And I think it was so great. It was so well said. They said the question isn't really, are there gender norms? Are there gender roles? We shouldn't be punished for not following the societal gender roles. So just
Okay.
because society says you should do it, you shouldn't punish me just because I'm not. I heard a woman on a video, and she was talking to her girlfriends and how they're all single. She says, "You told me not to make that man his lunch, and I do. And you told me not to do this for my man, and you told me not to do that for my man, and I should never do that for my man. I'm married, I'm happy, I've got beautiful kids, and I got a great life. All of the things you told me I shouldn't do, I did do. And that's why I have a great marriage." And I think that's the concept. Just because it's okay for you and it works for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for them or for that relationship.
Mhm. What comes to me often when I'm talking with the people that I work with, more often than not, I'm working with the women and not necessarily with the men. So when I'm working with some of these women, they're not uncomfortable with the fact that they make more money than their man. But what's happening is, like I was saying before, it's like this silent issue that's happening within the relationship. So even though it's not being stated that there's an issue with it, there's these little underlining things that are you can see. What's being brought to me is that they can see that their partner is feeling inadequate because of that. But the fact is, and this is a conversation you and I have had as well, the fact is, like, it shouldn't matter the dollar amount, because how much money am I saving because you can handle the things around the house? But it's hard for people to conceptualize it in that way. And I think, as a general rule, you correct me if I'm wrong, women are less concerned about the the balance financially as a general rule, and more concerned about the security within the relationship, where I think men focus pretty heavily on being the provider, because that's the gender assignment that's been given to us. So men are very focused on making sure that they are the provider. But I think what's happened is society has labeled being a provider financially, when all of that began in a world where money wasn't even a thing. Like, this all started in the caveman times. So money wasn't how you provided. It was all the other things that are not being given value by the men or the women. Men are not even seeing the value in it.
So I think you're dead on. I think once we've taken out the construct of monetary value, we begin to see, what do we need to survive? And this is really the question. Do you want to survive with your partner, or do you just want your partner to provide for you what you think is what's going to make you survive?
And that's what you were talking
They
about,
say,
relying on one.
exactly. So when you look at it, like, if you look at it from a perspective of money moves the world. Money makes the world go around, right? When you look at it that way, then you're absolutely correct. Money is what provides infrastructure. Money is what provides wars. Money is what provides yada, 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 right? However, if you don't have anybody to go to school and learn a skill to create this new infrastructure, you're gonna be lost.
And that's what this next generation is going through right now. They're all they're all white collar, and there's nobody in the next. We've got 50-year-old men out there doing things that they should be retired at. Their body is done, but there's nobody in the up and coming generation to take over and do the physical labor.
Here's a prime example within the social media, social construct, is that movies suck. Let's just be real. Nobody's going to movies because there's no good movies.
You're not wrong.
Because nobody has invested in the time to understand what it takes to make a good movie. Now, I'm not saying they all suck, you know what I'm saying? But the movie going theme has gone way downhill. I remember
I think that happened during COVID.
Sure. Listen, I think it happened long before COVID, but that's just me. Maybe I'm a little more cynical when it comes to movies, but nonetheless, I really feel like you're spot on with this. I think there's a generation that's coming and changing, and AI's taking over.
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and AI's shaking their head like, you guys have created some of the most amazing things in this world, and you guys just gave up, and now you're relying on AI to do what you should be studying for, what you should be learning, what you should be growing in. And so on and so forth.
So one of the things that I've thought about is that society's falling apart because the next generation doesn't have the blue collar workers. But as AI is evolving, what is happening is that there's going to be a lot more white collar people out there, and it's not going to be an issue because the computers are capable of doing these things for us, which does become a problem over time, because now what are humans used for at that point, other than to drive the AI, but that also is like way outside of the box. But I do think that it sort of fills a little bit of the gap. If technology becomes what it looks like it's becoming, it fills a little bit of the gap for the people who are not physically or manually inclined so much, because a lot of the gentlemen are going to school for computer programming, and it's more white collar master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, and there's not going to be any desire. Controversial opinion is that the majority of the up-and-coming generation, they just don't. They're sorry guys, but it's just lazy. They want the easy fix. They want it quick. They want it now, and that's true for us too. Like, we want it that way too. But we also have a realistic perspective of it. You have to bust your ass for it. You're gonna have to get okay with that. And honestly, we don't learn anything unless we're fighting for it. So I think the entitlement now, that's a whole nother subject. But that's the up and coming generation. Although gender roles is going to be a thing for them as well, because I have to use appropriate language, but I think women, and I don't know about the generation below us, but I think as a rule, women, I know myself and the people that I speak with the most, we want a masculine man. And that, again, it's just a word that I define as somebody who is mechanically inclined, somebody who is who is physically able and has the knowledge to be able to make things run within the house. And like when I see my man outside with a shovel and a power tool, like that's hot, and that to me is masculine. Now, do I want to also be able to do that? Listen, in reality, yes, I want to be able to do that, but not because I tell my friends all the time, I'm tired. I'm tired of being the man. I don't want to have to pay somebody or to go figure it out by myself. Can I? Yes, but I don't want to. And I would like to have a partner who's capable of picking up that slack for me. And I think that most women can. Go ahead.
I think it's the same way for me. I don't want to cook. I don't want to do the things that are in the home, the domesticated stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that stuff, and I would love to find a partner who's willing to pick up that slack so that I can go play with my tools, so that I can go build something, so that I can go fix something. You know what I'm saying?
So the irony is that women enjoy that part of most people. Most women enjoy the homemaking, right? And men enjoy doing the outside stuff as a general rule, right? So we get stuck, like, and I do think that a lot of the reasons why men in our generation feel emasculated is because we're doing it. Women are doing that to you guys. So what's ultimately happening is because we grew up in with this independent mind, we don't think anybody can do it as well as we can. So we ask you to take out the trash and you willingly, happily take out the trash for us, but you didn't do it right. So we start nitpicking at all you didn't do this right. You got to do it this way. You got to do it. Well, then you wonder 10 years down the road why your man is on the couch with the remote control not doing shit. Well, because you kept telling him he was doing it wrong. So why is he going to get up and try? Because you're just going to be upset because he didn't do it right. But you're mad, even though we created that.
Well, I think there's more underlying issues there. To me, that's a control issue, right? When you're not doing it my way, that's simply your control, right? When you ask me to help you move a couch, if I'm not lifting the way you want me to lift, or I'm not doing it the way, I'm going to say, carry the gosh dang couch yourself. Okay. I'm done. So let's just be real. When you ask for somebody for help, you should listen. If you asked your boss to help you out, hey, can you help me move? And your boss comes and he's banging your walls and he's scratching your carpets, you're not going to say nothing to him. You're not going to be like,
because of respect, which we lack.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So so we flip the script, right? Your husband tells you, hey, I need you to make a meal for me this weekend because like I'm going to be working late and I need a hot cooked meal. And you're going to look at him and be like, why you do it your dang self? Why can't you do it? You got 2 hands, 2 feet. Like, why are you so quick to not do the things for the person who loves you, who's providing for you, who's supporting you? But because he ain't your boss, it doesn't make any sense.
This actually, I have a counselor. Again, if your counselor doesn't have a counselor, you need a new counselor. I had a counselor. I was in a relationship at one point, and I was very on the fence about how I felt about the relationship. And the counselor just simply asked me, "Do you respect him?" And that was the end of the relationship because the answer was no. And it wasn't something that I had taken a step back and considered. But at the end of the day, I can't let you lead if I don't respect you, if I don't trust you. And trust is a very, very delicate word. I think too many people think that means that you're not going to cheat on me. That has very little to do with it. Trust is about being able to, one of the things I think about, because I'm 46 years old, so one of the things I think about is, what if I get sick in 10 years? I own my own business. If I'm sick, I'm not making money if I'm not working. So I'm thinking, can that person hold the weight for me if that becomes the case? Am I going to plan accordingly financially? Yeah, absolutely. Are they going to financially be able to handle things? Maybe not on the level, but again, because the money isn't as important, maybe not on the same level, but they can handle the stuff around the house. I know emotionally, I can count on them. I know that they're going to be able to support me even when I'm falling apart. I know that when even if I'm not sick, if I need to take a week off because I need a mental health week because I'm losing my mind, I can fall into the person that's in my life. And to me, that's feminine and masculine energy. To me being able to relinquish control to somebody that I trust to take over, that to me is what the feminine and masculine energy represent. But that requires respect. which requires trust. If I don't have trust, how can I respect? And then how can we have a successful relationship? Which I don't think people really think about very often. But when my
Right.
counselor asked me, do you respect him? It completely shifted my perspective on relationships. Because how can I
Right.
trust you if I don't respect you? And how can I respect you if I don't trust you?
And I think it's kudos to you because a lot of people would still stay. And I think that's where the most damage is dealt. When you know you don't belong there, and you know you shouldn't be there, you choose to stay for the kids because you feel trapped, because you don't have a way out, you don't have support outside of that. That's typically when things go south because resentment begins to grow and grow and grow. And it just only gets worse from that point. Now you guys are not sleeping together. Now you're not cooking for each other. Now you're not thinking about each other, and so on. So many other things that can just lead into even physical, mental, and emotional abuse, and those are all unhealthy scenarios. I got a question for you though, to kind of bring it back to the gender roles. Do
Okay.
you think that gender roles? Do you think that gender roles are socially created, or do you think that they are like natural, like naturally given? And if so, why?
So I think innately, there is yes, I do believe that they are instinctive. I think gender roles, but it's because and this is the thing, you were talking about money and the importance of money, but we forget about caveman times when there was no money, and that's where the gender roles originated, because the women were at home taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, making sure that the food was cooked, and the men were out having to catch. You weren't going to eat if the man wasn't going out to catch the food. And you weren't going to have anywhere to live if the woman wasn't home making sure that the rocks and the mud and all the things were keeping the rain out. Like, it had to be that way from the beginning of time. It had to be that way. And
Right.
what's happened, so I do think that it's naturally in us. I think that it is, but I also think it's been taken to an extreme on both sides. And I think that up to date, it was very basic in the beginning. It wasn't that complicated in the beginning. We made it complicated as the years and generations have passed. So I do think that there is a natural importance to having a role that, like, let's look at it like this. Women are just not as strong as men, right? So how can I be the one to do the manual labor when forgive me, but when God made man physically stronger, and if also a controversial opinion, God made women emotionally stronger. That it's just and I think that defines gender, and it all started at the beginning of time. So I guess my answer is I
Well,
don't. Go ahead.
so there was a study that was done, and I can't cite the source because it was just told to me recently, so I don't have the source in front of me. So please don't headhunt me about citing my source. But there was a study that was done, and in this study, they were studying different cultures throughout the world. And to your surprise, you might find out that there are some cultures that you are more of a man if you are more emotionally inept, if you are more emotionally aware, versus the women being more physically inept and more physically aware. And so you can understand that with these types of findings, that your social construct is the defining portion of what gender roles are. So here in America, we have a very progressive way of doing things, right? So there aren't roles for just men. There aren't roles for just women. A man could be a woman, and a woman can be a man. Like, it doesn't even matter but you go out to other countries, maybe some Latin countries, and you'll find that these roles are men are very, what we, it's a Latin term we call machismo.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very aggressive, what's that,
I would call it
masculine
rigid, a
toxicity?
rigid, yeah,
Yeah. What do they call that? That toxic
yeah,
masculinity.
yeah.
So, uh, but that is the norm. That is expected. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And culturally, your environment can change and shift the way you are thought of. Like in that culture of Latin culture. See, I was in Mexico. I was in Oaxaca. If you're a woman and you couldn't cook, boy, you had a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot. You probably were never going to find a
Mm-hmm.
husband. That type of seriousness, right? Like if you couldn't cook, you couldn't clean. So, and I'm not saying that's everywhere. That's the very. So I was in a small town called San Miguel, and there was population like 50. Like I'm telling you, it's just a very small city, right? The point is that society is deciding for us what is the gender roles and what they should be. You definitely have people who say, I'm going to think outside the box. I'm a woman, but I want to be a president. I want to be a track
Mhm.
star. I want to be a bodybuilder, right? So you got people stepping out of the bounds of you need to be this. If you were the 50s and the 60s and you were a woman wanting to play football, there was something very wrong with you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There wasn't something right about that.
Which
And
is
it's
where
very,
women's
very
lib went right.
opposite.
That is where women's lib went right, for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, having said that, I think there's a place that we as human beings, this might be a sexist thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like women live in the past and live in the future. Their anxieties are high because they're worried about everything that could potentially happen in the future, but not yet happen. And they're scared about all of the things that did happen to them, all of the traumas, all of the past, all of the exes, all of the men, all
Well,
of
that brings
the
me to the
fight.
next subject. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I think where men sit is in the moment. Like, what do you want me to fix right now? What's the problem right now?
Mhm.
Let's fix it right now. And for women, especially when it comes to their children, they're worried about their future. They don't want them to have the life that they had. They want them to do better in their life. They want what's best for them. And so they're constantly worried about things that are not actually happening right now. And so this is why more women have high depression and high anxiety because they can't differentiate what's happening to them in the moment
Mhm.
versus what's happened to them in the past and what's about to happen to them in the future.
So, clinically speaking, you just said it. Depression is usually dwelling on the past, and anxiety is projecting into the future. But one of the not clinical things that I frequently say is, if you have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, then you're pissing all over today. So
Exactly.
it kind
A
and
hundred
what
percent agree.
essentially that means is that we're robbing ourselves of being in the moment, which is another thing that has been highly advocated for over the last couple of years in the mental health language of like enjoy the moment, just stay in the now. And that's, in fact, every year I create a specific goal for myself, not a New Year's resolution, but a specific goal for myself. And this year that is my goal, to try to every single day. I don't forget that in December, I set this goal for myself that I want to try to teach myself how to be more present in each moment, because it does help your mental health. If you're projecting into the
Oh,
future
absolutely.
and creating anxiety or dwelling on the past and creating depression, if you can focus on being right here, right now, maybe it's shitty and maybe it's great, but it's always going to be temporary. So just be here. Like, accept if it
Exactly.
sucks, accept the suckery and enjoy and embrace the amazing moments that we get to have, because it's none of it is forever. The only thing that's forever is the end. And when that happens, that happens. We don't have to worry anymore. Whatever your beliefs are,
Right.
there's nothing to be thinking about anymore. So it's so important to be able to stay in the moment, but it's so much easier said than done. So
And this
go.
is why, and to tap into what you just said, this is why dating is so poor, because everybody's looking at what this person can do for me in the future, how this person is going to be for me. Is he treating you with respect? Is he there with you? Is he providing for you? Is he giving you the attention? Is he reaching out to you? Is he making an attempt? What is he doing for you right now? Because you're so caught up in what he might not be able to do,
Mhm.
what he might not be able to produce, what he might not have. Listen, if you would have told me 20 years ago, not 20, maybe let's just say 10 or 15 years ago, um, that I would be in a career 10 years later, getting ready to start my own business, I'd have told you you're out of your mind. I'd have said, no, I like this. I like this call center job. I ain't doing none of that. But look how quick time just completely changed everything.
Right.
Time changed my path. Time changed my direction. Women have inspired me. Men have inspired me. People have inspired me to want more, to do more, to be more. So when you're looking at somebody for who they are in the moment, that doesn't mean that they won't be the most amazing person you've ever run into in your entire life. My mom, she was working HR jobs. HR jobs. Meets her husband. Her husband looks at her. You know what? You do taxes for everybody in your family and all of your friends, and you do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you charge somebody? Well, I never thought of that because that's for families, for friends, you know? She goes on to having a very successful business. She bought out her home. She's bought out her cars. She travels to Peru twice a year. She goes to California almost every other weekend. They do whatever they want. Her business was very successful.
Who was it
But if
that
you had asked
suggested
her,
that to her? Who suggested that to her?
her husband,
Okay,
her husband.
can we please? I want to hone in on that part because that's what a partnership is. That's where the gender roles maybe become like if I have somebody in my life who respects me and believes in me and sees my potential and pushes me towards that, not shoves me, but pushes me towards that. That is what a partnership is all about. I don't believe that people are meant to be alone. I can't get behind that. Like we need each other in order to keep this thing keep the wheel oiled, right? So when we find a good match, not the perfect match, right? There is no perfect person. You have to be able to make concessions somewhere. So when we find somebody who's good for us, who loves us and respects us and trusts us, they don't have a problem saying, "Hey, why don't you do this thing?" And when someone suggests it, just like your mom, like it didn't even occur to me, but she had the right person to be like, "Hey, why don't you go make this happen?" That's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
And it only happens with support. Now, can you get that from your friends? Sure. Is it the same? No. No, it's not the same.
And I think this is what makes a good partnership, personally, is that when I'm with, we'll use you as an example. If I'm with you and I'm looking at you and I think, man, she just doesn't know how amazing she is to me.
Mhm.
She can't see it because she hasn't tapped into what I see. So I'm going to keep telling you, you're amazing. You're wonderful. You're beautifully created. Whatever it is you want to do, I'm going to support you.
Mhm.
I'm going to back you up. And if I see something in you that, man, that's what good relationships are. It's about seeing that person better than they ever could see themselves. That's why this is why when they say you're in love, you don't see flaws. You don't see idiosyncrasies. In fact, those are the things you like about them.
But
Those
doesn't that
those
change over time?
imperfections.
Doesn't that change over time?
The idiosyncrasies?
Naturally,
Listen,
the
I
things
remember.
that you think are super cute in the beginning of a relationship, in 15 years, it's like, dude, really? Like, I think that's normal.
I think it could. But listen, I can tell you from experience the things that started bugging me about her. The moment we were no longer together, I absolutely missed them. I absolutely wish I had them again. And
Yeah.
and and that's why I say the perspective changed because of the emotional change. We were beginning to argue and fuss and fight. So, you know how you have that one friend or that one person that just does that thing and it just makes you want to scratch your eyeballs out. Like, would you stop doing that? It's because there's something that has changed in your emotional connection with
Right.
them.
Right. I would
So
agree.
again, when you have that best tatted friend, man, they could do something off the wall and you still be like, that's my homie. Man, that's just my homie.
I want to talk about trauma. Like,
Woo.
first of all, how would you define trauma? Let's start there.
Oh, okay. So that's big. Okay, so there's no real short answer for this, but I'll do my best. I definitely feel like trauma is anything that you've emotionally attached, you've attached an emotion to.
Mhm.
So this is why memory happens. This is why dreams happen, because when you tie an emotion to something, you can remember it 15, 20, 30 years ago because something you attach an emotion to it, so it's able to trigger that memory, right? But you don't know what it's like to suck on your mama's tata when you was a baby because there was no emotion tied to it, right? There's no emotion tied to you being a baby, but
Mhm.
once you start having full grown emotions, you can remember your first Christmas gift or your first kiss with your first boyfriend, or because there was a deep emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is what trauma is. Whenever you have an emotional attachment, listen, I've been cheated on before by some girls. I can't even remember their names, but the person I love the most, it stings and I'll never forget it. It'll
Mm-hmm.
never leave my psyche. It'll never, the images will never leave my brain, right? And so that's what trauma is. And I'll let you elaborate further where you want to go with this because I'm not sure the direction.
Wanted to talk about how it affects gender roles because, first of all, I think that many people don't understand the definition of trauma. I think a lot of people think like PTSD is one of the things that people talk about, and CPTSD. So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and CPTSD is more complex, right? CPTSD is no longer in the DSM, but it is a byproduct of PTSD. The difference is with PTSD, it's generally a life-threatening event, something that threatens your life or someone else's life, like an event that you start having flashbacks, right? But that CPTSD is where things get complicated, and that's where honestly 90% of people have some form of CPTSD. And it's not about, and I say this all the time, life is not what happens to you, it's about how you perceive what happens to you, right? So if you didn't think it was a big deal that you were cheated on, then it wasn't trauma for you. But if you took it with you throughout your life in ways that made it difficult for you to cope and have relationships and get by, that is trauma. So what's trauma for me isn't necessarily trauma for you, and vice versa. I don't get to decide what is traumatic and what is not traumatic. So when I work with clients who come to me and say they had parents with narcissistic behaviors, like they've been raised in unhealthy environments, and quite frankly, nobody does it perfectly. No parent is perfect, so we've all got some sort of trauma attached to our upbringing. No matter how healthy it is, your little brain's going to take trauma away from it. No matter how good your parents are at what they do, your little brain is going to turn it into something terrible, and that's not wrong. That doesn't mean nobody should invalidate that for you. Like if that's how you saw it and you felt traumatized by that, cool. Let's go with that. And let's try to dissect that and deconstruct that so that it doesn't affect all of your future relationships, which goes into the attachment theory stuff. So the reason why I asked about trauma, how do you define trauma? It's important for people to know that it's a broad definition, and nobody is immune to it. The reality is that all of us on some level have experienced it, and it does affect our relationships, which is what the attachment theory is all about. What I have to ask you is, how do you think trauma, let's talk specifically attachment theory, childhood trauma, can affect relationships, and how has it affected your relationships?
Oh, absolutely. So abandonment issues, right? So that's my biggest one. So that was a trauma that started from very, very early age. I'm not going to go into the story, but it started with my mother, right? So with those trauma, abandonment issues, I began to seek out attention from a very early age. And when I couldn't get the attention that my brothers and sisters were getting, because he was the oldest child and he was God's gift to earth, I couldn't get that attention. And then the baby, he gets whatever he wants, whenever he wants it, however he wants it. You know what I mean? If he wanted his crust cut off, he got it. I'd still have to eat the crust, but he didn't have to eat the crust. Like, it didn't make any sense to me, right? And then I began to seek negative attention.
Right.
Negative attention began negative friendships. Negative friendships led to negative relationships. Negative relationships led to toxic relationships, and so on and so forth. So absolutely, it just compiled and compiled and compiled until I began to realize what was actually happening. With my trauma, it greatly affected my relationships because I couldn't trust women. And I couldn't trust women for being really what they say they were being. And then when I did risk it, it only backfired on me and they would cheat on me. Now, it's my traumas and my lack of knowledge, let's just go young and dumb, right? Is why they cheated on me. I mean, not that I'm condoning their cheating, but I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't a great husband.
Is it that you weren't a good husband, or is it that you had a bad picker?
No. I definitely wasn't a good husband. I was a very machismo. I'm the man, my way or the highway.
Okay.
It was do what I say. You're the woman,
Mhm.
you need to cook, you need to clean, that's how poor of a husband I
Right.
was, right? No
Right.
woman wants to put up with that. And for how long, and we were young, and the picker was off, the picker was
Mhm.
broken. I
Mhm.
picked somebody for the attention, for the lust, for the all of the things that weren't actually the reasons I
Right.
should be getting married to a woman, right? um married at 21 is not the business, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a whole nother
It
life.
is.
That's a whole nother life.
Yeah, it is not the business. But we grow, we learn, we go through things. This is where not having a good example in the home uh, equates to those things as well. My mom was raising 5 children on her own. How much attention could she actually even give me if she had time to give me attention? Right? So it's not her fault. I
Okay.
don't blame her. She did the best she could with what she could when she could. So long story short, I began to realize that they're having some major effects on my life.
Mhm.
And what I realized is I'm blaming everybody and everything and not taking accountability for
Right.
anything.
Right.
And once I begin to start taking accountability, I then begin to start taking control of my own life.
Mhm.
And now I can dictate where I want my life to go. The first thing, and I'll never forget this, the first thing that I told myself was, I'm going to be a man of integrity. This was mid 20s,
Mhm.
late 20s. I don't know what else I can offer, because at this point in my life, there's a lot that's going on. A lot has happened. I've just gotten out of the military, just gotten divorced. I'm raising two boys on my own. I don't know what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, or which way I'm going to do. So the only thing I could control was me. And so that was my take control of my mental status is now I'm just going to be a man of integrity. If I
Mhm.
mess up, I'm going to own up to it. If I do it right, I'm going to keep doing it right. Whatever that looked like, that's what I want to be. And so now here I am 25, almost 30 years later. I'm like, I'm so proud of the man that I've become. I'm so glad I made that decision
Mhm.
then, because that part of me is unquestionable for me.
Mhm.
I don't doubt it even a little bit. If somebody came to me and said you lied and you said it and you did this, I'd be like, show me your evidence, because I know you
Because
don't
we
got
sleep we
any.
sleep when you sleep well at night when you know that you're living by integrity, for sure.
Exactly, right. So, the more and more I start taking control of my life. When I quit smoking cigarettes for oh man, almost 20 years ago, that was such a powerful takeover of my mind. I can't even explain to you like how liberating that was, to know that I could control my urges
Mhm.
and my desires, right? And that's now moved into my relationships. I don't just look for sex anymore like I would when I was younger. Like when I started dating a girl, hoping I was going to get laid. Now it's like, I want to see who you really are.
Mhm.
I want to see what you're all about. Where are you going in life? What do you want in life? Yes, I still want sex, but that's not the hope anymore. The hope is I find a genuinely amazing woman that's going to complement me, that's going to complement my life, that's going to be the kind of person that I would want to spend the rest of my life with.
Mhm.
And that's been a hard thing to find.
Well, I think as we get older, we learn more about what we don't want. So, and we grow into versions of ourselves that we love enough. Like, do I want to live? Do I want to be alone for the rest of my life? No, but if I have to be, yeah, sure. Like, because I'm not gonna set. I know what I don't want. I can negotiate on what I
Right.
do want, but there are things that I've learned through failed relationships that I'm not gonna settle. And it's not about being hoity-toity or bougie or like, I'm not asking for too much. There are things that
Right.
have happened to me throughout my relationships that I'm not. I won't, because why would I
Well,
put
I
myself through the
and I
same
think
pain?
and I think that's where we're both at. I think we used to look at the bare minimum bar and be like, okay, well, if they could at least meet the bare minimum,
Mhm.
there's potential. Now we're saying, I ain't looking at potential anymore. I'm looking at where are you? That
Well,
bar has risen
well, listen, because we're
significantly
40
higher.
something years old. I'm 46 years old. I only have so much future ahead of me. I'm not going to spend it miserable.
Right.
I'm not. And I like
Right.
my own company. So if I have to be here by myself, cool.
Right.
I don't want to be, but if nobody steps up, all right, that's cool. Anyway.
Exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
I have a ton more questions. I'm not done with you. Listen, guys, if you are just tuning in, or if you didn't tune in and you see us later, this is John, who is one of my favorite people to shoot the shit. We have very similar beliefs and also very differing beliefs, but there's a mutual respect where we're able to hear each other. So the point being, he will probably be back, and I have a whole bunch more questions. Maybe we can do this again next week, but I have a bunch more questions that I would love to mull over with you that'll probably take us down a bunch of different rabbit holes. Anybody that has joined us, we appreciate having everybody here, and I will be back for more Healing Out Loud at some point in the near future. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.